Hey everybody, I'm Jacobc.eth. I'm the founder of HyperPlay, and actually built HyperPlay. We're a new Web3 game launcher and game store aggregator. I was previously lead of operations at MetaMask, and I was super inspired by how gaming became the dominant growth model of MetaMask. And we built HyperPlay as a new Web3 way to carry your Web3 wallet into native games. I'm going to tell you a little bit about HyperPlay and the different problems that we solve. And we're going to go into how you can build games and better Web3 game experiences using HyperPlay. So again, just to restate, HyperPlay is a Web3 native game launcher, and we're also an aggregator of game stores. So the first problem that we solve is the wallet to game interaction problem. So this problem, every Web3 game today, all of them universally are accepting one of these three compromises. Maybe they're being built as a low performance browser game. And these are great because you can attract a lot of liquidity. You can easily integrate with MetaMask, but the gameplay experience in a browser game is inherently poor. You're going to get lower performance. Players are not going to see these as real games. You can try to solve this with the second compromise by making a native game and having a separate web marketplace where people do transactional activities. But in this model, the player has to close your game and leave your game every single time they want to do any sort of transaction. And this hurts the developer too, because your developer revenue comes from in-game transactions, it comes from protocol revenue, and yet you've buried the protocol transactions. And then there's this third type of compromise where you can embed a one-game wallet inside of your game, but then that wallet can't be carried outside of the game. So you basically have ended up creating a Web 2 game with a secondary market, but Diablo had that in 2012. You don't actually need a blockchain to do this. The real value propositions of blockchains are interoperability and creating great Web3 experiences. So we believe really deeply in being able to carry your wallet outside of the game. So we built HyperPlay to solve this. It's a native desktop application. We want interoperability, permissionless extensibility, and great UX to be the default for every Web3 game. We aggregate these wallet solutions. So we allow the player to connect their wallet to our native desktop application, and then we pass the player's wallet into the games that they play. So you can connect a MetaMask mobile wallet by scanning a QR code, and then every in-game transaction will pop up on your phone. It's very similar to the flow for Fortnite. When you buy a skin in Fortnite, it pops up on your phone to approve it. We do the same with MetaMask mobile, but we also can support the browser extension, in the MetaMask browser extension inside of native games. And the way we do this is we create an overlay on top of games that's very similar to the Steam overlay. Steam paints a chat window on top of every game that you launch from within Steam. With HyperPlay, we paint the player's wallet on top of the game and allow the player to do in-game transactions. And we can actually import the player's MetaMask wallet from their existing browser through a one-click interaction. And I'll show you a little bit about how that works. But one more thing I want to point out is that for developers, we're running a simple REST API that you can use to integrate with all of these wallet solutions. So you can integrate with over 40 other wallets through WalletConnect as well. Any transaction request or signature request, any kind of request that you can make on MetaMask today, you can submit to our REST API. HyperPlay is going to convert that into whatever wallet solution that the player selected, and we're going to overlay the wallet approvals on top of the game. The second problem that we solve is the distribution problem for game developers. Right now, if you're used to releasing a game through, let's say, like the Apple App Store or Valve's Steam or the Google Play Store, you have to submit to a 30% transaction fee. And even if you share 30% of your revenue, those Web 2 monopolies will deplatform you for having Web 3 features. So we built HyperPlay as not just our own store, but an aggregator of many stores. And these are stores that allow Web3 games, and we allow the developer to release through any of these channels and to appear inside of our desktop application. And not only that, we're creating a competitive market between the game stores so that these game stores are pressured to no longer deplatform game developers and to no longer force these 30% transaction fees on developers. And the HyperPlay store does not charge any cut from your in-game transactions. We are cross-platform compatible. So you can, we have a Windows, Mac OS, Steam Deck, and Linux build. And we also have Wine Crossover and Proton built into our application. So this allows the player, even if your game is only on Windows, to play Windows games on the Steam Deck or on Mac OS or on Linux. And we want to make games permissionlessly flow to every platform using open source tech. Like I mentioned before, we don't take a cut of your in-game transactions or your in-game economy. Our business model is the same business model that we previously used at MetaMask, where MetaMask monetizes convenience features and consensual optional features, which are in the UI. So instead of extracting value from developers, we offer optional features like NFT swaps or token swaps inside of our app, while the player's outside of the application. We plan to aggregate many different NFT marketplaces. So if we aggregate a developer's native marketplace, that marketplace's fees are kept intact and we're not taking anything from the developer. We do support browser games and native games. The browser games actually open in a full screen view and they end up looking a little bit more like a native game. So we're improving the UX of browser games, helping players to discover the browser games and helping players to discover the native games. We're free and open source software, and you can release through our store without sharing a cut of your in-game economy. Our store stores games on IPFS, and we also have augmented nodes on IPFS that will give you faster downloads. And if you wanted to use those for the developer, you're just paying for the bandwidth. We're not trying to monetize that. The HyperPlay app looks like this. In this example, the Sandbox is one of our launch games. We're actually launching tomorrow, so you're getting some early alpha leak. But in this example, you see the HyperPlay logo above the Sandbox because the Sandbox is hosted in the HyperPlay store. But if the Sandbox were hosted in the Epic store, you'd see the Epic logo or whichever store the Sandbox chose to distribute through. You can also see the wallet connection in the bottom left corner. But here's what the user experience looks like if you're connecting a MetaMask mobile wallet. So you just scan that QR code once, and then this connection is persisted into every game that you launch from within HyperPlay. There's no need to scan a QR code for every game that you launch. If you wanted to use the MetaMask browser extension, you can import your existing MetaMask install from whatever browser that you're currently using into HyperPlay. And you can also create a new wallet there in the bottom right. This is an example of an in-game transaction in undead blocks. So we're painting the MetaMask browser extension on top of undead blocks so that the player can do a native transaction with the MetaMask browser extension inside of a native game. And in this example, the player is using MetaMask Mobile instead of the browser extension. So they get these notifications in the bottom right-hand corner to tell them to go and approve that transaction on their phone. We're building an NFT-based achievement system. We're building transaction allowances so the player doesn't need to approve dozens of MetaMask transactions every single time there's an on-chain transaction. And we're also building a progressive onboarding feature where the player can skip setting up a wallet until they have an in-game transaction. And HyperPlay will actually overlay the MetaMask onboarding flow on top of the game so the player can onboard into a wallet without ever leaving the context of your game. We are a product built by a DAO. So we were initiated by the Game7 DAO. And the product is actually being co-developed with MetaMask and with some people in the BitDAO ecosystem. We have 21 launch titles that are coming tomorrow. And those are some of them that you see there on the right-hand side. I'm Jacobc.eth. I'm the founder. Flavio is my co-founder. He was the founder of Heroic, which is the largest Web2 open source game launcher. Brett was the founder of Cosium, which is a Web3 first-person shooter. Leon was who is right up here on stage with me, was the founder of Web3.Unity, which later became the ChainSafe Gaming SDK. Max worked on the NFT product for XDeFi wallet. Billy Ann used to lead product design for Heroic, and Pimentel used to lead product design for BitDAO. We are launching tomorrow. Our developer alpha program launched at the end of November, and we're super excited. We have some pretty sick bounties. So we're doing a $10,000 bounty for the best game experience built with HyperPlay, and we also have a $5,000 bounty for anyone who can port our overlay features to Mac OS. So if you want to deal with Metal and its weird proprietary APIs, we would be very interested in talking to you. And so on that note, I'm going to hand it over to Leon, who's going to take you a bit through our through how to build games with HyperPlay.
Hello, my name's Leon. I'll go into the technical stuff a little bit, but before I get into that, if you're just a regular Web 2 gamer and you want to have one app that has Steam and Unreal and all the different platforms, this works. So you can just download one thing and it works. We also follow the same mentality in terms of keeping things simple. We try to get along with everyone, with all the chains, with all the wallets, Web 2 and Web 3. So let's nerd out a little bit. So to get here, just go to hyperplay.xyz, top right-hand corner, there's docs. That's the page. And we'll go over some setups. So the first way is to install HyperPlay. It's pretty straightforward. All you got to do is there's a download button. You hit download, you install, it's all there. And the first step is to connect to your wallet. So there'll be a pop-up. You can connect with either your MetaMask wallet or WalletConnect if you have another wallet. You scan the QR code, pretty straightforward. And then you're done, you're connected. So this one wallet will connect to any Web3 game on that platform. You don't need a separate wallet for every game. Also, for the overview, similar to what I said before, we try to get along with everyone. So all the features here, it's native with GOG, MetaMask, WalletConnect. We basically get along with everyone. So if you guys have new wallets, new ideas, we're very open to this. We're also cross-platform, so Linux, so on and so forth. All right, so in terms of the nerdy stuff. So before I get into this, as Jacob mentioned, it's a very simple layout. It's just REST APIs. So if you're just from the Web 2 side, a regular game developer, you can implement this today. You don't need to learn anything fancy. So we have some examples here of just simple post requests. So you can do things such as get the account of that wallet, right? Get the balance. So these are reads. You can also do writes, getting personal sign to maybe sign into a certain feature or enable some tokens. You can sign type 3. You can send transactions. Basically, this is a REST API that handles both. It abstracts the fancy stuff away, right? The fancy crypto stuff. So you can just do posts, and it can handle both reads and writes. Besides post requests, we also handle native game engines. Try to find this. So for example, with personal sign, you can sign the word hello, right? And you get a signature. You can verify that on chain. It's too nerdy, but the point is, you can do this with a regular curl request, right? Or we already have code written in Unity to do this for you. So you can literally copy paste this into your Unity, your game engine, hit a button, and there will be a pop-up to sign, and it just works. So a lot of copy paste. It's pretty straightforward. If you want more examples, we have one down here for sending ERC20s. And we also have more examples for Unreal. So if you're an Unreal Engine developer or a Unity developer, we already have tools for this. So reach out to us, and we'll get things started. And that's about it. Thanks.
We have I'll just do on the Unreal Engine. I'll also just mention we built a new library called Web3.Unreal, and it allows the player to do lots of things related to Unreal and Web3 generally, and it has a built-in HyperPlay integration to make it really easy to build Unreal Engine games. I think we have time for a few questions if people would like to ask any questions.
For people have identity verification, because if you buy, I would think oh, you're actually dealing with
Yeah, so that's loud. So the question was, is there some form of KYC or identity verification in HyperPlay? So we are a permissionless client-side product that's wrapping the wallet. So it's very similar to when you use MetaMask on a dApp or something like that. There are dApps that choose to implement KYC protocols and things like that in their dApps, and you can certainly add KYC protocols in your game if that were of interest. We are really agnostic and permissionless. So our goal is to allow developers to build whatever they want to build, and then those transactions are being processed by non-custodial wallets. So you can require the user to KYC their wallet or something like that, but we don't do that at our application level. We're fundamentally permissionless client-side software like MetaMask is. Any other questions? Or comments? Well, I'm happy to wrap super early. Oh, we do have a question. Yes.
This question is probably pretty prosaic. Are the 20 games tomorrow, do you have any idea what chains are going to be released on? Like, is it going to be Polygon, Arbitrum? I'm assuming none of them are Ethereum mainnet, right? So.
Yeah, good question. So HyperPlay has the same network list as MetaMask does today. So we can support pretty much any EVM chain. In terms of our launch lineup, we have a pretty good representation of Polygon, mainnet, Arbitrum, Optimism. I think that we don't have anything on Avalanche. Avalanche devs, you should come join us. But we have a pretty wide distribution. I'd say that also in our future, something that's related to this is MetaMask is building something called Snaps, which is a plugin system that can potentially support non-EVM chains. And we're really interested in building some of these plugins into HyperPlay by default. So we would potentially even support non-EVM chains like Starkware, Immutable, Solana, Cosmos, and we want to support every chain and be fundamentally chain agnostic. We also are building some interesting features on the Mantle L2, which is specifically targeting gaming. So we're doing a great diversity of chains. Well, we can take one more question. Yes.
Yeah, my question is, how big of a pool of developers do you guys have aiming to have it launch on HyperPlay?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we have 21 games launching on launch day, but we actually have over 50 studios that have onboarded into our developer alpha program. A lot of those games are games that are not out yet. And some of them might be a year out or 2 years out. But we're building a pretty diverse ecosystem of devs of many types of different genres. We've got some really great games, whether they're like shooters, like we've got Undead Blocks, The Bornless, those are really great kind of horror first-person shooters. We've got The Beacon, which is an action RPG. We've got some battle royale games like Trouble Punks, Smashverse. Who else am I forgetting? Some devs are going to be mad at me for forgetting to call them out. We've got Dark Throne, which is another action RPG. We've got Gridiron, which is a sports game. It's actually, Gridiron is super cool because it's like the first NFL style game that is really radically different than like Madden and things like that. Every player controls a single player on the team. So it's much more like real NFL sports. And that one is like, that game is sick. We're actually doing a playtest of that. So I guess one thing I forgot to mention in my presentation is we have, so Game 7 and HyperPlay are the track sponsor for ETH Denver for gaming. And we're going to have a really large playtesting area starting on the 2nd at the main event. And we'll have 8 computers preloaded with these games. You can sit down, try any of these games out. We're going to have competitions for Undead Blocks. We're going to have a competition for Gridiron. And we're going to have a competition for... what's the other... Dark Throne. Thank you. We've also got, let me do some other shout outs. So we got DeFi Kingdoms. We've got a crazy first person shooter called Bunny Count where you're like crazy deranged looking rabbits. We've got Flight Force 4, which is a battle royale. We've got, a lot of really amazing devs. And dear devs, if you're watching this and I forgot to say your game, please forgive me. I did this off the top of my head.
Also, to add on top of that, think of this as like the App Store, right? So we build the platform. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to find these game studios, Web2 or Web3, interested in this platform to collaborate with us. So we have this whole workflow where you can submit your game. And so it's pretty much endless, right? Think of it that way.
Special shout out to Phantom Galaxies and the Sandbox and the Wake. Those are 3 more that I remembered, sorry. Time for one more question, maybe? Great. We'll go ahead and wrap up there. We're around all week. If you want to build a game or a game experience or extend the capabilities of HyperPlay, we would absolutely love to talk to you. And come hit us up.